Azurite Sea is mere days away, and I'm so excited to finally get these cards in my hand, start building some brand new decks. Recently on the channel, we've been focused on updating the past and kind of really going through what some of those decks look like. Today, we're going to focus on 8 brand new decks that are really showcasing what Azurite Sea has to offer into deck building. There's a location deck, there's aggro decks, combo decks, really trying to kind of attack what is now being brought to us in the form of set 6 and Azurite Sea. So let's get into it. Hey guys, real quickly before we get into the video, into the deep dive, there is a buyer's guide for Azurite Sea over on the Metafy. There's a link for it in the description below and also in the pinned comments. If you're looking to up your game and really figure out what you should target in the Azurite Sea for your purchases this weekend, you should check out this guide. Owl Island Fun. So let's talk about what Owl Island does. Owl Island is a 3-cost, uninkable location, 1 to move to with 6 willpower and 2 abilities. The first is Teamwork. For each character you have here, you pay 1 less for the next action you play each turn. The second ability is A Lot to Learn. Whenever you play a second action, a turn, gain 3 lore. So this is very much kind of capitalizing on what Robin Hood is already doing. Robin Hood Sharpshooter is the 4-cost, 1 strength, 4 willpower legendary with 2 lore with the ability, whenever this character quests, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an action card with 6 or less and play that card for free. Put the rest into your discard. So this is definitely now kind of finding a way to make this deck even more powerful. Having all of these, actions build up and have the payoff from Owl City and from Maui Shark, which is, of course, Maui Half Shark, the 6-cost inkable, 7 strength, 5 willpower, 1 lore with evasive and the 2 abilities of Chihu. Whenever this character challenges another character, you may return an action card from your discard to your hand, and of course, Wayfinding, which is whenever you play an action, gain 1 lore. So now we're really focusing in on this combo of Emerald, Ruby, utilizing actions, matters decks, gaining additional lore without having to quest, having a bit of a protection factor from, the draw power of Diablo, and of course, Prince John, along with the early aggression from Cursed Merfolks and Flynn Riders and things like that. Having the information from Ursula Deceiver, and of course, any of these worlds where we can double sing some of these cards. Specifically, if we can ever set up a double sing with a Pirate's Life, that's a really powerful play. If we can get all that set up and really, create these huge lore swings and totals and things like that. This is definitely a bit of a deck that's going to take some effort. It's going to take some work, I think, to make it, whole, kind of get it really going. But this is a good foundation, a good core for you to start with and kind of see a new concept of what, cards like Owl City, which is probably a card that no one's really talked about because it's kind of niche, it's kind of different, it's uninkable, so maybe it's not, the best, most reliable source. But I really like cards like that. I love cards that kind of breathe a bit of innovation here. So definitely worth checking out. If you're looking to do something different this weekend, I check this one out for sure. Let's talk about Finish Line. The Sugar Rush Speedway for Amber is a new card, which is a new super rare in the set, which is a 2-cost, uninkable, 6 to move to, 7 willpower location with the ability of Bring It Home, Kid. When you move a character here from a location, you may banish this location, gain 3 lore, and draw 3 cards. So this is definitely playing into this multiple ways of moving characters to and from locations, and then utilizing Sugar Rush Speedway to refill our hand, gain some conditional lore, and really just move the game forward. Obviously, you can see there's lots of different ways to kind of set these things up in this particular deck. Having it Fix It Felix being a 2-cost, draw a card as long as you have a location is a nice little replacer for itself. 3 willpower is a good stat line to work with. Having the new Minnie Mouse, which is the 3-cost, uninkable, 3 strength, 2 willpower, 1 lore, with the ability of Land Ho. Once during your turn, whenever a card is put into Inkwell, you may return a location card from your discard to your hand. So this is effective draw power in a way. Each turn afterwards, you can kind of pick and choose which locations to get back. Even if you're just getting back a location to ink it, it's going to help you kind of free flow and have more card opportunity to kind of get to the end game to where you need to be and be more comfortable. Obviously, Jim Hawkins is phenomenal in this particular list. Being able to play a gym, move to the location that you're playing it with, whether it be just a Pride Lands as a way to give Jim +2 willpower, putting him at a 4/6 that protects him a little bit. And then the following turn, we can follow up, play our Sugar Ray Speed Rush, and Jim will move to Sugar Ray Speed Rush on his own because of his ability. Take the Helm reads whenever you play a location, this character moves to that location for free. We're so very used to the first ability, which is just when you play him, you get to play a location. We often forget that it's actually a different and separate ability that allows him to move it for free. So this is now setting up this ability to when you play a Sugar Rush Speedway, as long as Jim is on a current location already, then you can immediately move to it, pop it, draw 3 cards, gain 3 lore, and really just kind of get off to the races and running all the way to the finish line. This deck is being created because of the new rare uninkable Emerald action, the 3-cost You Came Back, which is just ready chosen character. This, and now, of course, the original Do It Again, is finally creating these ways to gain a bunch of lore without the restriction of when you ready this character, it can't quest. Very often, Ruby is preventing characters from questing, such as LeFou is an example, or Shield of Virtue, things like that. Like anything that normally readies characters doesn't ever allow them to quest, even cards like Sven as another example. So these Emerald action that is allowing us to untap our card and still have no restrictions to either be able to challenge or quest again means we can do really unfair things. For me, the best way to do this is with Ariel Treasure Collector. I think any world where we can have a Treasure Collector in play and her represent 5 lore, all of a sudden now Ariel Treasure Collector, with an established any lore gainer, if I'm being honest here, but we have a couple. So we have the Medal of Honor, which is a pay 2 to banish this item. Chosen character gains 2 lore this turn. So this is a way to effectively make Ariel a 7 lore character potentially. So we can just quest for 7 and then play You Came Back, quest for 7 again, and then do it again to pick up our You Came Back, and then do it again. Ironically, you can also use Starlight Vial in this deck is another one where it's when you exert this, you pay 2 less for the next action you play this turn. So now all of a sudden, we're turning this 9-card combo into a 7-card combo, which is really kind of just making this all be very possible and realistic. And it's also created a reason why we don't necessarily need Lucky Dime in this deck. I think it's very interesting. I think utilizing cards like Vision of the Future gives this a way to really finite this particular combo. It's all going to be about finding Ariel, setting her up, and then just doing your best to win the game through multiple versions of her questing for a really high amount. And there's not a lot of ways to interact with Ariel Treasure Collector as is. So as long as you can establish one in play, it's not going to be that difficult to all of a sudden ready her once or twice and just flat out win the game out of almost nowhere. Emerald Steel Aggro is a new take on some of this. And in all honesty, this is just a very much more aggressive version of the previous control versions we're seeing, utilizing new cards like Go-Go, which is a phenomenal addition from the 2-cost 2/2 Inkaball with evasive and 1 lore. And then when he comes into play, you can actually kicker him for 2 more and gain lore equal to the amount of damage on an opposing character. This is not that difficult to pull off. It really happens way more often than not. And even in games where your opponent knows you're going to go, you can even just set up a Let the Storm Rage On or a Strength of a Raging Fire of your own. In that manner, put the 2 or 3 damage or maybe even 4 damage on certain characters, and then it's all of a sudden play a go, gain 4 lore out of nowhere, make huge different swings. Calhoun is the ultimate trump card early on. It's going to prevent players from exerting characters early on, which is just going to really stand still the board and just say, hey, I'm going to have all control of the early game. So it's going to put you in a weird position. And therefore, you're going to be forced into doing things that you don't want to as the game progresses. When we have cards like Curse Merfolk and, Mr. Smee and things like that, it's very easy for characters to want to challenge into those. Calhoun is the perfect defense. It's almost like a brand new type of bodyguard that enables a punishment because now you have a character that gets to trade into their character, pretty favorably on average and gain 2 lore along the way. This is still very much a doc deck, which I think is great. This is another way to just kind of refill your hand. As you see, this is currently not a Diablo deck. We're trying out some different cards. We're trying to be a little more aggressive. Diablo is obviously one of the best cards in the game, and if you wanted to play it, you can probably easily make room for it. But on the chance that we're trying something else, I think it's fine to maybe mold that different direction. Having the answers to Diablo, of course, is important. So having Kick Cloud Kickers is kind of whatever. I do think Pegasus might be the one card that's probably not good enough. If you're looking to just kind of remove a card out of this and try and fit other things, Pegasus is probably a little too slow, a little too scarce in a world where opposing Diablos just get to come in and remove it, and then you can never do anything with the card anyway, specifically in a world where we don't have shift lines for it. The other new card here that I really want to point out real quick is I'm Still Here. I think this is a card that's going to be a big impact in the metagame. This 3-cost inkable song that when you play it, a character gains resist to, and you draw a card. So many times that we do this with Ursula 2, all of a sudden we can protect our board really nicely from challenging and draw cards along the way. I think we've been really hoping for another card that when we're able to sing it with Ursula, it gets us to draw cards again. This is kind of like a reverse Let the Storm Rage On in a way, where all of a sudden we're just protecting our characters. Resist 2 here, resist 2 there, draw 2 cards, and our board is still pretty established. An Ursula 3 with resist 2 and 3 willpower, there is not a lot of cards in Diseny Lorcana that can remove that character on turn 3. It no longer gets removed by a fox, and it's not like they can like double tap or anything like that. There's not a lot of characters that any of the decks are playing early on that have a 3 strength to get over the hump and then bring in a fox to finish off the job. Like it's not going to be an easy thing to do. So I do think that card is going to be a really nice wall protection for Emerald Steel decks, and most likely even some Amber Steel decks. We'll see how far the card really goes. If not, but I do think I'm Still Here is going to be a card that you should expect to see opening weekend. Speaking of opening weekend, this channel right here is going to be streaming this 1.5K that's being hosted by Encounter Comics and Games. Encounter is one of our biggest partners. Really excited to get the season started off with Azurite Sea. Me and Dick Burns are going to be calling the action live on Twitch, live on here, YouTube, The Forbidden Mountain. So if you're looking forward to that, 12 p.m. on Saturday, definitely be there to check it out. Check out this set, from day one. I think there's 8 members of the Forbidden Mountain that are coming out to hang out, all trying to play different things, get started in different metagames. So if you're looking forward to this, definitely hit subscribe so you don't miss this. And if you want to watch on Twitch, if you're more, happy about that, then make sure you go follow the Twitch channel and things like that. Really, really looking forward to getting to call some action in the opening week of Azurite Sea. Let's talk about OTKs, right? We already talked about the Treasure Collector deck. Let's talk about a little Amber Sapphire. So Ariel Huzik Collector is one of those characters that, again, has the ability of whenever you play an item, you may ready this character. This is a 4-cost, uninkable, 3 strength, 3 willpower, and 1 lore character all the way from Chapter 1. And even in Chapter 1, there was many that were trying to make this card broken. They were trying to make this card win games. There were definitely decks that were able to achieve this every once in a while. I think it's a little more difficult now in some cases, but if there's any world we're able to get away with it and really punish players for allowing us to untap with an Ariel in play, all of a sudden we have a lot of new tools that make her very interesting. Having the ability to, quest with her, have good job to give her additional lore, have characters like Oswald that every time you ink, you get to put another item into play, which then therefore would actually ready Ariel as well. Having a card like Medal of Honor is really great. Having a card like Azurite Sea that's going to give you a second chance to hit another item with your Oswald. Utilizing characters like Donald Duck to protect Ariel, and of course Chip to gain additional lore as well. And then when in doubt, the Ariel plan isn't the best option, we're going to have cards like Sheriff of Nottingham, which is just a gigantic 5/9 character that is, cost less for each item that we have in play. So all of these things are really working in this synchronized way of just punching out and punching over your opponent. If your opponent wants to play this slow, grindy game, all it's going to take is one turn for you to say, I'm going to play Ariel. And if you don't have an answer to my Ariel, I'm going to untap and win the game. I think it's a really interesting, different version of way to play this. Amber Sapphire hasn't been one of the more famous interactions within Lorcana. Most of the times that we've seen it in the past, it's been like this heroes only deck. So anytime that we can try something new and really utilize older characters from the past with all the brand new tools that they have, I think it's a nice, fun place to start and kind of start working towards different goals and innovations. I don't know that this is like the best deck in the metagame or anything like that. Honestly, I don't think it is. But if you're looking to have something fun this weekend, if you only have like a local league night and it's nothing like crazy on the line, and you just want to try something different, I think this deck is for you. All right, let's talk about the pedal to the metal Zimba Aggro. So the Zimba Pride Protector is the new legendary from Azurite Sea, which is the 5-cost, uninkable amber character with 4 strength, 4 willpower, and 2 lore, shift 3, and the ability understand the balance. At the end of your turn, if this character is exerted, you may ready your other characters. So what does this really do? Why are we trying to utilize this ability? Well, it's very simple. In this ink combination, if you really sit here and look at the board, we have Daisy Ducks that are 2 lore, Lilos that are 2 lore. We have our 2-cost Lilo Escape Artist that's 2 lore, Piglet, which is 3 lore. The Ruby Zimba is a 3 lore character. Wendy is potentially a 2 lore character. Sisu is a 2 lore character. Rapunzel is a 2 lore character. All these characters are very above rate on average and can create a lot of chaos for your opponent to try and interact with. Most cases, what happens is that you get into a position in the game where they find an answer to it, and you're like, oh, this is kind of annoying. I can't properly quest my characters anymore because they're just at the threat of just being removed too easily. All of a sudden now, Zimba's going to come in and it's going to ready your characters. And because of that, you're not going to get extra turns out of them. You're going to be forcing your opponent to find alternate ways to interact with your smaller static characters, and it's going to need to come from, the steel removal. It's going to force Amber Steel players to have to play cards like Grab Your Swords again when they don't want to really be doing that because Ruby Sapphire is so powerful. It's going to force Ruby Sapphire to need, and I do mean this, like they're going to need the Sisu shift line, or they're going to need Be Prepared. Otherwise, you're just going to flat out win the game before they ever even get to threaten those type of cards. I think this deck is very interesting. I think Just in Time is another card that we often kind of see people dabble with, and we never know if it's going to be successful. Now, if you're looking at it, we can Just in Time. We can have a Goofy on turn 3, which is not nothing. We can set up our turn 2 Gothel into our turn 3 Rapunzel to draw 3 cards with Just in Time. But you also get Kita, which also protects all our characters so well. We get Mufasa's as a way to interact with Be Prepared and other removals and kind of force another way to win the game. A lot of different ways to interact with this deck. A lot of really fast-paced action. If you're definitely interested in the type of deck that says, hey, I only want to play 6 turns, and whether I win or lose, that's all I want to do, this deck is perfect for you. You're just going to jam stuff in play, turn it sideways, and then have weird interactions because of Mufasa, because of Kita, and because of the new Floodborn Zimba, which is just going to make your opponent's day like living hell. So definitely something new, something different to try. If you're an aggro player and you're used to playing decks like Amber Amethyst, I think this is a pretty easy transition if you want to try something new for like an aggro upside. And, just, hey, every once in a while, it's fun to play new cards. It's fun to interact with new cards, specifically around new sets. I do think that this particular set it's giving some life to this concept. All right, so I want to talk a little bit of a story for this one. So we have Wendy Pirates here. And what I love about this deck is that this is a Dave Nunes concept of saying, hey, we had this opening weekend tournament. I know we're going to be tryharding for Continentals and for the CCS 8K and things like that. But this opening weekend, I might just want to have fun. And if I just want to have fun, I want to test my theory while doing it. Well, that is exactly what happened here. So let's take a look at Wendy's Pirates. So Wendy Darling is a 2-cost, uninkable, 1 strength, 2 willpower, 1 lore with evasive and the ability Look Lively Crew. When you have another pirate character in play, this character gains +1 strength and +1 lore. So effectively, it becomes a 2-cost, 2/2 with 2 lore and evasive. Obviously, this now interacts in a way that it can remove a Diablo when in doubt, which I guess that's notable and cool. But the other thing it does is just becomes a 2-lore inkable evasive threat, which is pretty hard to come by in this particular game. So having this concept of all I have to do is play all my pirates, which, spoiler alert, that's all this deck is really filled with, is pretty great. Utilizing the new Mr. Smee, which is the 6-cost uninkable, 3 strength, 6 willpower, shift 4. When you play this character, you may deal damage to chosen character equal to the number of your pirate characters in play. This is very similar to the Mickey Mouse Floodborn that when it comes in, it deals damage equal to the brooms. This guy's a bit bigger. He's being a 3/6 body with 2 lore, which is nice. You're also going to have multiple Mr. Smees just because they're kind of good. The other new addition for Mr. Smee is the 2-cost 3/2, which is during your turn, this character gains evasive. So this is like another pseudo way to interact with Diablo and things like that. But it does have 2 willpower. I really wish this was the flip stats. I wish it was a 2/3. Not a 3/2. It would be a more reliable source and more reliable way to answer. But hey, it is, in its own way, effectively an answer. Mr. Smee, of course, is our other 3-cost 3/3 lore. The interesting thing about Mr. Smee is very often, what will happen is you'll be questing with Mr. Smee. You're going to put a couple damage on him, and then you're like, oh, I can't use him again. Well, it actually works perfectly with the new Captain of the Jolly Roger, Mr. Smee, because you're like, oh, I'll quest on turn 3. And then on turn 4, when you already have a damage on, you can be like, oh, I'm just going to shift. So now I'll shift. I'll still have my 2-lore character, but now my 2-lore character will be much bigger, and he's not threatening death or anything like that. So I do like that concept a little bit. I think it helps. This is the other new character is the Moana, which is the 1-cost 3/2, and this character can't challenge unless you have a captain in play, which obviously we have several different captains, but a 1-cost 3/2 is definitely a stat line that we're not familiar with. It's going to be really good at interacting with some of the more newer cards with 3 willpower or resist ones. So like this card does answer like a card like Mr. Arrow pretty well. It answers Calhoun pretty well, things like that. So as we're looking at some of this stuff, there's a couple of conditional 3/2s out there. This is one of them. The other one is the 1-cost Nick Wild, which is also a conditional 3/2. I think you're going to see some of these cards see play. I think it's nice to see this Moana find its way into a deck. There's a lot of new cards going on here. There's a lot of new, kind of outlines and ideas here working with trying to make pirates work. If we look at Azurite Sea, we have to say, hey, it's a pirate set. So hopefully there is some type of pirate deck that's at least close enough to really, say, hey, we can build this deck and we can try it out. Is this one? I'm not sure. Is there another version, like a Sapphire Steel version that might be a little more consistent? Maybe, but I really like the idea of trying all these Ruby pirates that we've had just sitting around in binders and then mix them with some of the newer cards that are going on and really see if like, hey, is this the set that Ruby Steel Pirates can do it? Time will tell. And there you have it. Very quickly, we went through a bunch of new decks that you can kind of start with on day one and look at. And right here, of course, we have the Forbidden Mountain Doc 2.0. If you're looking to hear all about this list, then you should just click on that video that you see right there. Dick and I sat down, discussed it at full length, giving you a full-fledged breakdown, along with telling you about the MetaFi that covers it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video today, and we'll catch you in the next one. Please, good luck and have fun this weekend opening Azurite Sea. See ya.